ladies and gentlemen. Actually, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to some more OP replays. And today we have Tier 9. Tier 9 replays. Some really good battles in Tier 9. Now, I believe when I first started the game, Tier 9 for me was one of my worst tiers. But over the years, Wargaming have implemented much better tanks in Tier 9, and now for me Tier 9 is the tier. Tier 9, I absolutely love Tier 9. There's some great tanks in Tier 9, but mainly the only reason I prefer Tier 9 is because you can still pump out that damage that you can do in Tier 10. Now, most people, Tier 10 is their favorite tier because it is the top of the tree. You could do the best damage, you could do high damage, and of course you're always top tier. However, when you are playing Tier 10, you're going to come up against these Tier 9s that most of the Tier 9s out there can still hold their own in Tier 10. That obviously they have to be made good enough to perform well in Tier 10. So a lot of them, especially say heavy tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks still have in Tier 9 still have the armor and they still have the hit points, and it's the same with medium tanks in Tier 9. They still have the DPM. Now, what I love about Tier 9 is you've got all these tanks that can really hold their own in against Tier 10, and some of them are even better than the Tier 10 variant. However, you see Tier 8. You see Tier 8, and when you see Tier 8, that's where a lot of them probably you're going to come up against more players that are, okay, they're maybe not so good. And the reason for that is mainly premium tanks, is because obviously Tier 8 is the tier for premium tanks. Everyone buys premium tanks, or most people buys premium tanks, whether they're good or not, because they want to earn credits, and Tier 8 is the premium tier as such. So you do come up against some easy Tier 8s. And when you're in tanks, say like the E75, the E75 in Tier 8 is an amazing tank. It really is. The Motion, even though I'm not a lover of the Motion, but that coming up in Tier 8 is a very strong tank. You have this tank here, the Conway with the Hesh, very good tank. The Object 704, again, a great tank. And you have the tank we're watching here, which is the Standard B. Now, I prefer the Standard B over the Peugeot. Now, the Peugeot in Tier 10 does have armor. It does have the armor. Look at this Conway. Stop circling me, please stop. That's so funny. He's telling him to stop circling him. But what I love about the Standard B over the Peugeot is the Hesh. It has what, 100+ millimeters of Hesh. Lovely Hesh. Lovely Hesh. Lovely HE. Fair play, it doesn't have the armor. It literally has no armor. It can be penned pretty much from HE from anyone. It's an auto reloading gun with lovely Hesh, lovely HE, which is basically Hesh. It is like Hesh because of that the high penetration, and I love that. There is other tanks like the T54. The T54 is a fantastic tank. I mean, look at this. You can HE the rear of an IS-8, which, I mean, easily. Yes, I know you can do that in some tanks, but you can HE it like it is Hesh. And that is why I absolutely adore the Standard B. It's one of my favorite Tier 9s because you can just really perform in it, and you can HE a lot of tanks. You can pump up that damage a lot quicker. You can HE side of the tanks if you want to risk it. You can probably HE the side of that E75. That's if you want to risk it. So Tier 9 for me is the tier. The Tier 9 is such an amazing tier now, with amazing tanks. It really has, and that is what we're going to look at today. I mean, this guy performs really well in the Standard B, and he's pumping up that damage really quickly, mainly because of that HE. High Tech, we're watching High Tech T-Day. He's on 4 kills now. It's just 2 against 1. If this was me, I would just YOLO this E75. But what he's actually doing, he doesn't want to take any chances. He's gone for the full magazine reloaded. So he has 3 shells. It doesn't matter then if he gets shot once from this E75, because he should easily be able to take him out. And he does just that, even with an AFK on his team. Now, also, Tier 9 is the tier for DPM. You have the Jag Tiger, 4,000 plus DPM. You have the SU-12254, which is the highest DPM tank in the game. There's a lot of tanks out there in Tier 9. When you are upper tier, these tanks are literally amazing. They really are amazing. Now again, we're going to watch another medium tank, the T54. Used to be called the Heat 54 back in the day, and we're watching Remis driving, and this time he's up against, there's 4 tier 8s. Now the T54 in tier 8 is an amazing tank. In tier 10 it's an amazing tank. It doesn't have great penetration, but when you're up against tier 8, you don't need really that penetration. You don't need to use as much heat. You can penetrate most tanks, and you've got over 3,000 DPM. Like, you've got really, really good DPM. And the tank we're looking at there, the Centurion 7-1, that's another tank. It has the Hesh. It's basically the same gun as the tier 10 version, but yet you're coming up against tanks with not much armor and not much DPM. So what is your favorite tier, guys? Like, let me know. I'd love to see how many of you agree, like, with the tier 9. How many of you prefer tier 9 over tier 10? What is your favorite tier? I mean, a lot of people, tier 8 used to be their favorite because of all the premium tanks. Now, I don't really like tier 8. Tier 10, of course, I do like. I love playing tier 10. But yeah, tier 9 is the tier for me. It really is the tier for me. Now, what I do find about tier 9 is you do, not these battles that we're watching, but you do come up against tier 10 an awful lot. Sometimes I could roll out 10 games in a T54, and I could probably face 9 of them is tier 10. So I don't know if that's a wargaming matchmaking thing where they put you against higher, I don't know. But I don't mind it, and that's the thing. I really don't mind coming up against tier 10 when I'm in a tier 9, and I can't say that for many other tiers, to be honest. Like tier 6, for instance, I hate coming up against tier 7 all the time. Obviously, yeah, you do have all the OP tanks in tier 7, the Annihilator, the Smashers. Most tanks are good in the lower tier, like any other tier. Most tanks are good when they're top tier. I mean, look at the Gravedigger. The Gravedigger, when that first came out, we was like, this tank is broken. But then when you start facing tier 8 in the tank, it then becomes just a meh tank. But yet against tier 6, it is a kind of a broken tank, and not a lot of people can deal with it. Tier 9's not like that. Tier 9 is not like that at all. It doesn't matter if you come up against tier 10. Yes, it is nice being top tier every once in a while, especially if you're in a tank with good armor that in tier 10 can't really bounce. Like the Moishan, for instance. When you come up against a Moishan when you're in a tier 10, it's an easy tank to deal with, and it's basically free hit points because they have, what, 2,500 hit points. You can see that Moishan there, 2,000. That's more than some heavies. That's more than some heavies in tier 10, but yet you're coming up against tier 8s. So you can really destroy these tier 8s. They're going to find it a lot difficult to pen you, even if you're in a motion. So that's why I personally prefer tier 9 than any other tier in the game. It's fun. There are some crazy good tanks out there. And we're going to see one more after this, which we're going to watch a TD, which for me is one of my favourite tanks in the game. And I blame CJ for that, because it's his favourite tank in the game. He got me playing it, and it made me realise, and that is the Waffle. I used to love the Grill. The Grill used to be one of my favourite tanks in the game. And then when people were saying, like, the Waffle's better than the Grill, I went to play it, and they're not wrong. The Waffle is such a good tank. It really is. And when you're in tier 8, yes, you've got no armour, but you can really do that damage. And we're going to watch the rest of this this T54 game here now. He's on 6.5k damage. You can see he's no problems dealing with this guy. And again, he's on 2,000 hit points. He's got even this tier 8 heavy has got some hit points, quite a lot of hit points. And now there's just the T49 left. Nice, easy. And he does say easy at the end. It wasn't so easy. That does wind me up when people say easy, especially when it wasn't easy. He was almost dead. So yeah, but GG nevertheless. 7,100 game does make some credits, and that's the only thing with tanks like the T54. When you do come up against tier 10, you don't make as many credits. Normally you lose credits, but we're going to have one more game here, and it is driven by Simon. And again, he's now top tier. He's now bottom tier. Now there's only 2 tier 9s in this game, and the rest are tier 10. But yet the tank actually really performs well in tier 10. The waffle probably performs better than the grill. You have other tanks. You have the T30, for instance, which is better than the E4. What else do you have? You have the T54, which of course the T62 is better. You have the E100, obviously the E75 for me, armor-wise, is better than the E100. It doesn't have that massive gun, but it has the armor profile. And so you have the premium tanks. You have the K91, which is a really, really good tank. One of the best tanks in tier 9, the K91. Now they've buffed it. You have the KPF, which is okay-ish. And there's just so many tanks that perform well against tier 10, but when you come up against tier 8, it is like a godlike tank. It really is. So we're going to watch this game here. Now it is Nube, and his team have pretty much gone together. The medium tank on his own decides to go on his own, which isn't good there from the Peugeot 65, considering he's top tier as well. Usually when you have these incidents where a tank goes on their own, normally the Peugeot is the one to rage. Like, guys, you're all noobs. My whole team left me. Like, no, you left the whole team. But no, you know what? He didn't say anything. He made a mistake. He went on his own, and he's probably left the game now and started another game. And that is what I always say to people. Instead of raging, just exit the game. So many people rage now, and I find it funny. If you have a bad game, or if you have a bad team and you die, don't rage at your team. Literally, trust me, it works. Exit the battle, start another game, and within 5 seconds of starting that game, you have already forgot about the other game that you've just played. Trust me, 100% works. It starts to get annoying when it's back to back, and yeah, then you just need to either change tier or just put the game down and go spend time with the family, or go and watch an episode of Friends or something. You know, just don't play, because if you're on that losing streak, then yeah, you need to take a break from the game. But tier 9, I would definitely recommend people playing. It's a more fun tank than tier 10. You tend to win more when you're in tier 9, of course, because you're going to come up against tier 8s, and you're going to come up against new players. So this game in the waffle, he's now on 2.6k damage. You know, his team are losing. It is a 4 versus 6. He's 2.5k damage. The Skoda is rushing him, and of course he's going to load up the he was going to load up the HE. Decides to go for the AP, probably because of the spaced armor on the Skoda, and now he has been he's lost a lot of hit points, you know, but he's going to reload before this guy, and he is going to take him out for his second kill to bring it now down to a 4 versus 4. So again, he's going to reload this tank. There goes the KPF, so it's now a 3 versus 4. They have the supremacy points. They don't yet, but they will have very, very soon. They have 2 cap bases, so they are going to overtake in supremacy if they can just stay alive and hold off. The E100 is coming up against the IS4, so he's now in a great position. Who are we watching? Simon. He's in a great position. Lovely high roll there on the IS4. He has to be careful of the Object 268, who is still full hit points. There goes the SU-122, so they've now overtaken in supremacy points, so it has to be the enemy now that makes the move. So he can just sit behind, you know, he's going to wait. There is the E100. He's going to get a nice shot into the side of him, and before you know it, he's on 5.5k damage. Now the E100 does the right thing here and ignore him to go for the one shot, but of course he could go for the waffle. The waffle is a one shot for him if he was to use HE. That was an unfortunate bounce there, but in return the IS4 misses his shot. Now the IS4, should he be rushing? Probably not. No, he shouldn't even be in that position he's at now. He should make the waffle come around the corner, so also the E100 has the shots on him. So there goes the IS4. It is now 6,000 damage. The E100 is not looking. Can he get a nice roll there? He does, and he brings him now down to hopefully a one shot if he can high roll, but he is on his own against both of these tanks. Both of them hopefully are a one shot. The Object 268 is a one shot, and this E100 just, you know, he doesn't even make it hard for him. So now all he really has to do So is he going to want the 5 kills? He's already got 7.2k damage. Does he hold it out? Because he is a one-shot to this object 268. Now, he's going to get very lucky there, and the object just snaps his shot, and of course, he doesn't use HE. At that point, when you're a one-shot, you have to go for a HE. Even if it doesn't pen, you need to risk that, because you're not doing that much damage unless you have a high roll. You're not doing that much damage on an AP shell. So a bit of a mistake there from the object 268, but a lovely game from Simon. 7,500 damage, makes credits as well, and almost 2,000 base XP. So that is what tier 9 can do. There are so many good tier 9s out there, and for me it is the most enjoyable tier to play. So if you're one of those guys that just plays tier 10, you want to get your average damage up, tier 9 can also do that. Go have fun in tier 9. Trust me, it is a fun tier. So I hope you enjoy that, guys. I am meadsy69, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye. With